Star Wars has always had political commentary. Even George Lucas, he said the rebels are basically the Viet Cong. Vietnam War was happening, which makes Darth Vader the United States.
Tony Gilroy saw me in a play.
He's the producer, writer, brains behind Andor.
Yes, and he thought she'd make a great fascist.
This is how fascism happens. It doesn't happen overnight. We don't wake up one day and there's a dictator.
It's the banality of evil. That's the thing. It happens around essentially a water cooler. I mean, I've turned full conspiracy theorist about the whole thing. Would we accept getting electricity for 4 hours a day that is decided by the occupation? The world has distracted us in a really extraordinary way from what's happening over there.
You went to the West Bank recently, the occupied West Bank. What was the goal of the trip?
You know, I want to advocate the best way I can. I don't want to be a pontificating actor. The amount of people we spoke to, the stories I heard, if anyone touches the fence that surrounds their tiny plot of land that they now have, the IDF come. The fucking doors of the houses welded shut, and the Palestinians have cages on their windows because they're under constant attack. We have a responsibility, and not just for them. For us, we are losing our humanity, and our governments are doing nothing.
I'm Mehdi Hassan.
I'm Denise Gough.
And we are not kidding. The Zeteo podcast where I get to talk to entertaining people about serious things and entertaining things, I hope. Denise, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So good to have you on the show. We're here in London. I love talking to people in London. It's my city. Do you consider London to be your city?
Yeah, for sure. I've been here 30 years, so it's,
As every racist likes to ask, where are you really from?
I'm Irish. I'm from the west of Ireland. Okay. Well, I was born in the east of Ireland and then moved to the west of Ireland. But I'm definitely...
But you're loving London.
Yeah, I do. I do.
I'm so glad I was able to be here to speak to you in person. Always better to talk to people in person. I am also a fanboy of Star Wars.
You're a middle-aged man.
And Andor.
It's my demographic.
I think we're similar in age. I think I Wikipedia'd before I came here to check age. Always check the age. Are they older or younger than me?
But my fans are usually, it's never women of my age. It is men of my age.
Well, on that note... I mean, Star Wars does have a female demographic.
Yeah, but
did you watch Star Wars before you got the big role in Andor?
No, I watched...
You never watched Star Wars?
No.
Nothing. Not a movie, not a TV show. And then you get cast as Dedra Meero, the villain in Andor.
I watched the first film recently with my nephew.
Come on.
No, I hadn't.
So even after you joined the Andor cast, I
watched Rogue One after that.
Okay, because Rogue One...
Yeah, because I was like, that's what it's leading up to.
That's what it's leading up to, okay.
But Tony Gilroy, who wrote it, was
who's
happy.
This guy in the black cape and the mark? What's he got to do with all this?
No, I knew. I mean, I grew up with 5 brothers, so it was in the house. It wasn't my thing.
Because we're the same age. We grew up in the 80s.
Middle-aged. I'm good with being middle-aged, by the way.
I'm not good with it, but I'm very grey. Because we grew up in the 80s, those of you in the US watching, all you had on British television on like Christmas Day and any holiday was Star Wars back to back, and Bond.
Yes, but I'm Irish.
Okay.
And I had 2 channels in Ireland. So we watched Superman, and Batman was the biggest thing for me.
Bond movies? Not Bond?
The what? Bond? Yeah, but I never watched Bond movies.
Right.
No,
which means you're about to be cast in one.
Yeah.
Based on previous.
Great.
Based on previous.
I doubt it somehow.
So hold on. So Star Wars makes the call. I don't understand. So what? You went for it. They recruited you. How do you end up on a show?
Tony Gilroy saw me in a play.
He's the producer, writer, brains behind Andor.
Yes, he saw many of us in the show in the theatre because he watches. He goes to see a lot of theatre, and he saw me in a play where I played a drug addict who had to get clean and sober, and he thought she'd make a great fascist, obviously. And so we met, and to my shame, I also didn't really know Tony Gilroy. And I had just done a pilot for a Game of Thrones show that wasn't picked up. And I was like, I'm not meant to do franchise TV. I'm a theatre actress. So I was planning to do a play. And then I met Tony Gilroy, and he was telling me a lot about the show, and when he left, I said to the casting director, I don't understand, like, I should tell him what I'm able to do. And she said, no, he wants you to do it. And I had never, ever in my career been pitched to, ever.
And it being the character of Dedra Meero, who is part of this ISB, Imperial Security Bureau. It's like the intelligence, the service of the empire, It is one of the most compelling fascists I've ever seen on screen.
Thank you very much,
You make
Mehdi.
a great fascist. That's
Thanks.
the kind of...
It's my calling.
That's your calling. Well, look, it's a good time to be playing fascist. I do want to talk about art mirroring reality in a moment, but just on the show itself, you do play a wonderful fascist. And I think we can play a clip from the show from season 2. Spoiler alert, if you haven't finished season 2 of Andor, what the fuck are you waiting for? But in the meantime, this might spoil some of it, but it's a very good scene.
And here you were, all that time, hiding in the shelter of imperial peace and quiet.
And I've known you all along. Hardly seems fair.
You disgust me.
Do you want to know why?
Everything you stand for.
Freedom scares you.
Freedom. You don't want freedom. You want chaos. Chaos for everyone but you.
So pretty. She's just so pretty.
She's so pretty, but also so evil.
Yeah.
What is it like watching yourself play a fascist? We're just watching that clip together.
You know, I watch everything I do and I read everything. I'm not somebody who's precious about that sort of thing. But watching Andor was amazing to watch something that you're in that's so good.
It is so good.
Because they don't come around like that often.
Did you have to do research to get into the role? Did you research baddies from history? Or does it come naturally
it comes naturally to me, funny enough. No, as a child, I was completely obsessed with wars and I was obsessed with the Holocaust. And when other kids were writing to pen pals, I was writing letters to Saddam Hussein to see if he would meet me.
Why?
Yeah, around the Gulf War. I was obsessed. I found out that Shannon Airport in Ireland was used as an arms base, and it blew my tiny mind. I was 9 or 10, and I remember thinking, but that means we're not a neutral country. How are we a neutral country?
Wow, so you wanted to go meet Saddam, like end the war through diplomacy?
I mean, what was I thinking?
Tony Benn style.
Yeah. So playing someone like that, maybe I just... Yeah, I find those people fascinating.
There's
weird that I wasn't trying to meet Bush. You know what I mean?
Yeah. More spoilers, just for people watching at home. Your character ends the show in prison on some moon. And she's alive. She's not dead. Tony Gilroy was recently asked by some folks in an interview whether he'd consider a spin-off show for you where you come and help the good guys like a Hannibal Lecter figure.
He loves Dedra Miro.
Could we see Dedra come back?
I don't know. I mean, I would, if Tony wrote that, I would be there in a shot. I'll go to any disco with Tony. But it was really satisfying that she ended up in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just blown away. Liking this video? Then don't just watch, hit like, share and subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show. But if you want early access to exclusive content, then you have to head to zeteo.com and subscribe now. You'll be supporting fearless, independent journalism. Dan Gilroy, who wrote the episode Welcome to the Rebellion, just won an Emmy.
Yeah.
Just last week, wins an Emmy. It's the first Star Wars TV show to ever win an Emmy. Like, Andor is proper TV. Not that the other shows aren't good. I love all the shows. I love Mandalorian.
Okay.
Have you seen The Mandalorian?
No.
You must watch The Mandalorian. It's very good. Pedro Pascal. It's the only show that matches Andor, I think, in that Star Wars TV universe. But Andor is so good. It wins an Emmy, and it wins an Emmy for the episode Welcome to the Rebellion. And it's kind of chilling that it wins an Emmy right now because that episode is so resonant with what is happening right now. I think we can play a clip of Senator Mon Mothma speaking at the Imperial Senate after the Gorman massacre in that episode.
When truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest. This chamber's hold on the truth was finally lost on the Gorman Plaza. What took place yesterday, what happened yesterday on Gorman was unprovoked genocide.
First of all, brilliant actress. Brilliant acting. She's just
Genevieve,
so good. Genevieve.
I've known Genevieve for so long on stage. I was so happy what Dan said, what she has done, the work that everyone's doing, but Genevieve is a real Yeah, she's amazing.
But that speech is so chilling because it could be delivered by a real-life US senator right now or a European or British parliamentarian. Yeah. And I wonder, was the political commentary in Andor, when you get these scripts, is that what partly attracted you to the show that's not normal Star Wars, dare I say? Even though Star Wars has always had political resonance?
I mean, the storytelling, the writing is everything for me. And because of my background in the theatre, I work on great writing. So it has rhythm, it has something that when you work on, like I did Angels in America by Tony Kushner, and I did it like years after it was written and still found that the resonance was different, but great writing resonates across time. It's timeless. And I know that speaking to Tony and Dan and the writers, that they weren't writing for what's happening now. They wrote it before even October 7th happened. So as Tony says...
And before Donald Trump's re-election.
Yeah. And as Tony says, it's not our fault that that the world is in such a state that it's awful that it's so resonant.
It's not art mirroring reality, it's reality mirroring art.
Exactly.
And that's so chilling when you think about it. Watch these... I mean... I want to come back to the first season in a moment and the relevance to what's happening in the world. But Star Wars has always had political commentary. Even George Lucas, when he came up with the original films, he said the rebels are basically the Viet Cong. Vietnam War was happening. Exactly. Which makes Darth Vader the United States and the Empire, which is obviously an unpopular position for a lot of conservative fans of Star Wars. When did you guys realize on the show that you were having this massive cultural, political, social impact?
I mean, we knew, Kyle and I hadn't, Kyle Solar, who plays my boyfriend, he and I were doing press for the first season and we hadn't seen it because there's a lot of links you have to go through and passwords and we just hadn't watched it. Yeah. And we were doing initial press and it was during COVID. And so we were on laptops in a dark room. And every time the laptop opened and the next journalist came in, they were really... like having a response to the show, and Kyle and I were like, oh my God, I think it must be really great, right? Yeah. We knew that the writing was great. We knew that making it was a brilliant experience. But then when you put things out in the world, like you don't know how it's going to be received.
Yes. I remember I was doing a show at Peacock, NBC Universal, the streaming channel at the time, and the executive producer and I were watching it religiously, and we're like, let's do a panel discussion about this. And they're like, wow. And we were like, do you think they'll let us get away with having like a serious... So we thought for fun, I think it was the end of the year show, the last show, we had like a panel of serious political commentators come on and talk about Andor, which we thought was really cool.
That's amazing.
It's like real, instead of talking about like Congress and Senate, like what about this show?
That's amazing. That's so, for all of us, especially when you meet Tony and his brothers and the writers, and they're serious people. You know, they're a laugh, but they know what they're talking about. And Tony is a history nut. Like this guy knows everything there is to know. So you're not just working with people trying to make a hit who have done a formulaic series that, we need cliffhangers, I know what goes into making TV, and it can take all the art out of it a lot of the time. These guys knew exactly what they were doing. Oh, and so even the casting, I remember meeting Kathleen Kennedy, and again, to my shame, I didn't know who Kathleen was on set, and I said, hi, it's nice to meet you. Who are you? And she said, I'm Kathleen Kennedy. And I was like,
the brains behind it all.
Yeah, and I said, what do you do? And she said, I'm the head of Disney. And I said, oh, so you're my boss.
Okay. You're my boss's 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 boss.
Yeah, you're like totally in charge of all this. And she said, I said, oh, well, I'm really happy to be here. It's amazing. And she said, well, Tony saw you on stage and knew that you were right for this part. And I said, that must have been really hard for you because you could have had any famous actress, and instead you get somebody from, but he chose all of the people in the show are all theatre.
Cast to perfection. Yeah. And that's the show. I mean, you know this because you said you're obsessed with Nazi Germany. What's so compelling about the show is this is how fascism happens. It doesn't happen overnight. We don't wake up one day and there's a dictator.
It's the banality of evil. That's the thing. It happens around essentially a water cooler, like all these kind of boring office politics, and he just nailed that.
Yeah, the committee meetings of the ISB, the mixture of bureaucracy, but also planning a genocide.
But what he did, I thought that was really clever with Dedra, was that everybody was kind of girl bossing her at the beginning, because we're in that time, aren't we? Oh my God. And all the while I was thinking, when I was watching people's reactions, I was thinking, you're going to get to, I think it's episode 8, the torture scene, essentially. It's like, she's a fascist. Yes. Be careful who you get behind, just because, women have exactly the same.
No, agreed. 100%. Look at who's surrounded Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Is there a sense that what we see, I always think Hollywood is all about the little guy standing up to the big guy. Like all the Hollywood movies, they glorify, all these kind of resistance movements. You think of like Braveheart and you think of all these classic movies. And then you look at Star Wars also, the rebels. But in real life, all those same people are the bad guys. They're always demonized.
But look at what's happening in the world right now. Like somebody sent me that thing about we get behind the rebels we get behind the little guy when we watch TV.
We're anti-empire on screen. So there's a scene in season 1 of Andor, which for me is still one of the most powerful scenes. It's Marva's speech, Cassian's mother's speech, played by the great Fiona Shaw, in a posthumous message and rousing the people.
It's easy for the dead to tell you to fight. And maybe it's true, maybe fighting's useless. Perhaps it's too late. But I'll tell you this. If I could do it again, I'd wake up early and be fighting these bastards from the start. Fight the Empire!
Actually makes me quite emotional watching.
It is emotional, and also it's one of those classic rousing speeches in a TV show or movie where like, you got the music running in the background, amazing delivery. But if a Palestinian said that in real life,
they'd be shot.
They're the baddies. We would say they're terrorists. You couldn't go on a college campus and say that in the United States right now. You'd be expelled, if not worse, deported if you're a foreign student. There is this weird disconnect between what we're willing to embrace on screen, in art, in movies, and then in our daily lives. It's like, okay, back to normal, back to the empire.
I know, and I get the messages from people saying it's so important and it's so great, and then they're not saying anything about what's actually happening in the world. So it's a really timely thing, a piece of art to come out. But I think what it's done for me is show the cognitive dissonance, like the ability for people to have all these feelings. It's like when people say to me, you're an actress, what right? Shut up. What do you stick to what you know? And it's like, this is a transference of skills. My job is to make people care or feel things about imaginary characters. So surely I can use those skills right now to feel less useless by making people feel things about actual people. Like I feel like there's a whole
only the people of Gorman, not the people of Gaza.
Exactly.
I mean, you said when did you film season 2?
Is it 3 years ago now? Wow. I think
took that long to come out.
Yeah, because I mean, there's so much work, and the strikes happened, so there was a lot of.
So it had not. It's pre-October 7th.
Yeah.
But when you watch it now, you cannot watch the Gorman massacre. Sorry, spoiler alert for those who get on with season 2. Gorman massacre, colonial force against an indigenous people in a public square, open fire in broad daylight, massacre the natives, and then cover it up and suppress the use of the G word, as we saw Senator Monmouth use, genocide. The parallels are insane.
I know, insane. But Tony will say, and he's right, he's like, open a history book, pick any genocide. True. And that is true, right? But like, and I wish, I mean, God, if only I could say that we all sat around talking about how this was Gaza.
A few people did, not enough.
Yeah.
It's like the latest Superman movie, which I don't know if have you seen that?
I haven't seen it. No.
So there's a scene in that also where the people are being attacked. And it's very, and Israelis got really upset. Some Israelis said, oh, this is an attack on us. But they don't name you. So if you see yourself in the villains, that's kind of telling. They just show a big army killing some natives. And if you think that's an attack on you, then that says
more about what you know about what's happening.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So you play a fascist on TV, as we've said multiple times today.
And I am a total fascist in real life.
Your politics are very anti-fascist, I think it's fair to say. Very different. You're from Ireland, as we discussed. Like many of Irish, you've taken a very strong stance against the genocide in the Middle East right now, against the occupation and the apartheid. The Irish people have been very strong in their support. I think it's fair to say Spain and Ireland are two of the strongest supporters of the Palestinians in the EU. Where does that come from? Does that come from Irish history, do you think?
Well, look, I left school when I was like 15 years old. I didn't engage in my own history in the way that I now would have hoped I did. I wish I had engaged more, but that's the whole that's what happens. Our language is gone, or it's coming back, but it's like, I wanted to get out of Ireland. So actually what's happening to me now with what's happening in Palestine is teaching me also about my own history. And I'm really grateful for that too.
And do you see parallels?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we lived under occupation for hundreds of years. And having just come back from the West Bank and walking around refugee camps that have now become cities, I'm really struck by how it feels to be somebody who comes from a history of people who got out from under occupation. That's extraordinary, actually. And I wish it so much for the Palestinians.
There's so much history that I interviewed Alana Hadid on this show last year, and her mum's family's Irish, her dad's family's Palestinian.
Oh, I didn't know her mum's family.
Yeah, and she
was
said
Irish.
she had this great line in the show. She said,
Wow,
"I have liberation running through my blood." Was the line she used.
That's an intense bloodline. I
indeed.
love it.
When did you first? I want to talk about your West Bank trip. Before we get to that, when did you first become aware of what is happening over there in the Middle East? Because I didn't know this until doing research for this show, that you were in the shooting of Thomas Herndor back in 2008, which of course is a film about the British photographer Tom Herndor, who was shot in the head by an Israeli sniper in Gaza in 2003.
Yeah.
When you were in that film, did you know what was going on?
Yeah, so I started learning then.
Oh, okay.
But I was also on my own personal, I was like cleaning my life up. So I was on my own personal waking up journey. And so we filmed in Jordan. So I spent time in Jordan. We went to refugee camps. I spent time with a woman who worked for the International Solidarity Movement. And I remember being with her and thinking she was extraordinary. Watching how she interacted with people, I was really drawn to her. And then I met a woman who was in the IDF. And I remember physically having a strange feeling with having these two women sitting together and thinking, I don't know enough about what's going on here. Like, this is...
And that was, 17 years ago?
Yeah.
So you've been on a long journey.
Yeah, a long journey that was also... There's a lot of stuff that came in to distract from that journey. I'm not going to say that I was on the front lines of the protesting and the way that some people in this movement have been and who have been great mentors for me. And the world, I'm realizing now that the world has distracted us in a really extraordinary way from what's happening over there and what has been happening over there for decades. And so to my shame, even after that film, I wasn't as engaged. I had a profound experience. I spent time with children in refugee camps, but I still wasn't ignited in the way that I have been ignited since October 7th. And when October 7th happened, I did what a lot of people did. I prayed for peace. You know, I had just joined Instagram. I had a very small following. And so I did the praying for peace. And then about 3 days later...
You saw on Instagram. You saw stuff on Instagram.
Yeah, and I also wanted context. Something like that comes out of nowhere and we're just going to go...
No, Denise, the world began on October 7th.
Exactly. And so then I started learning. So then I searched for context and found, in 2023, more Palestinian children were killed by the occupation forces than any other year in the occupation.
Prior to October 7th. Yeah.
Exactly. On October 6th, 300 Palestinians were killed. Then I started watching everything, reading everything. And I had to go through, Ta-Nehisi Coates talks about the levels of deception. I have found, I was reading a lot of, ex-Zionist voices or Jewish voices, all very informative and necessary. But it was like, hang on, I need to keep going. Why am I only reading those voices? So I started to deeply engage with Palestinian voices. And then there was a brilliant documentary made by two Irishmen actually called Voices from Gaza, which was made in 2014. And they're living in an open-air prison. Would we accept getting electricity for 4 hours a day that is decided by the occupation? We wouldn't live
over.
like
They
that.
pulled out in 2005, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, crazy that we...
There's no occupation, but we control the electricity, the water, the seas,
They can't
the
swim
air.
or travel further than 3 miles out in the sea. Like, it's wild. And then I was invited to go there. And And I knew that that was the next phase of my development as somebody, I want to advocate the best way I can. I don't want to be a pontificating actor.
And you go to the West Bank, and you've just been to the West Bank. Before you go, and even on this journey since October the 7th, are people telling you, shh, be quiet, don't say this stuff, be careful? I interviewed John Legend, and he said, of course there's censorship in Hollywood on this issue. And I said, well, how come you're not afraid to speak out on Gaza, which he has? And he said, well, I am who I am, right? He is at a place now where he's uncancelable, effectively. I mean, with respect, you're not John Legend.
No.
So,
although.
No, I mean, at some point in your theatre career, your nascent Disney career, is your agent, are your friends and family, our fellow actors saying, you should shut up about that. That won't help your career.
No, I mean, I've always been very outspoken in many different ways. I think I've been a pain in the ass for a lot of people in the industry for a long time, because you have to remember my background is I was a homeless drug addict when I came to London. I didn't come into this through the gates of privilege. So I have been on the other side of the fence for most of my career. Then I do a play when I'm 35 and suddenly I'm everybody's shiny toy. And it was great to get financial success. My God, to buy a house, that was huge. But I think if anything, people are like, yeah, that tracks, that she was.
But Disney, Tony Gilroy, none of them are saying, you know what, just promote the show. Don't talk about this controversial issue.
No, and we had a really great conversation about how we would publicize the show. We weren't told, don't say this, don't say that. That was never the conversation. But we were told, we want as many people to see this show as possible. So when you're talking about it, because like in the first season, I said in an interview, oh, she's a woman in a man's world. And my God, the unleashing of, we don't want feminist woke bullshit in Star Wars. I was saying, oh. And then you watch the show and people are like, oh my God, it's amazing. You think she's a woman in a... So I learned, don't give it anything. Let them watch the show first. So we were all very clear about... Because also we weren't lying. We didn't sit around talking about Palestine building the show. That's not what happened. We talked about other things. I based a lot of my character stuff and growing up, what it must have been like growing up in the Nazi youth. That's where it really came from. If I was to do the show again now, with what I know, I would be having different conversations.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I didn't feel censored in any way with that show. But my agent, I have a new agent recently, and I was worried, and I told her that I was going to do an interview about Palestine, and she said, you have to ask yourself if you're going to be okay in 30 years if you don't say anything. And I thought, okay, we're going to be fine.
Yes, that's a good agent.
Yeah, she's great, and I've always believed that I get the things I'm meant to get. And I talked about it before as like the difference between the gang and the tribe, There's the gang who look great. It all looks really good fun and they've got loads of money and it's all really shiny. But, to join a gang, you have to hurt yourself. To stay in the gang, you're under constant threat. To leave the gang, you have to hurt yourself. They disperse at the first sign of trouble. They really aren't interested in you as for you. It's about you kind of becoming a version of the gang. Whereas the tribe are like people that you don't have to see from one end of the year to another. But they're people who have conscience.
And they're there.
And there's a community. And I'm finding that since I started being vocal, actually what's opened up to me is lots of people who have conscience. And I feel safer. I feel so much better about myself, about what I'm going to do with my life. Like if it means that I would really like to pay off my house. So, I'm hopeful I do get more work.
40 years.
But I'm also, I believe that this is what's better for me as a person. And there are enough people speaking now for these new lines of creating work to happen. And, I feel bad for those who don't speak up.
Once Disney's Dedra spin-off kicks in, that house is paid off overnight. You mentioned safety.
Yeah.
You went to the West Bank recently, the occupied West Bank. Why did you go? Who did you go with? What was the goal of the trip?
So before, I feel like I'm sort of in university at the moment of like classes of learning. And I had done a workshop with this fantastic charity called McCann, who teach people how to advocate in the best ways, run by 2 Palestinian women, one of whom tells the story of how she can't go back. She can't go, and if she goes, she can't go to the same place her dad's in. Like, it's crazy. But I wanted to know as much as possible for things like this. I don't want to be the actress who screws up, you know. And so McCann had taught me a lot about how this whole situation had unfolded. And then I was invited to go with Sabeel, this brilliant Palestinian charity who also operate in the UK, to go on a delegation to learn. And the invitation was come and see, then go and tell. So I spoke to Palestinian people in my life and asked permission, because a lot of Palestinian people can't go back home. And if they do go back home, there's restrictions on how they move around. And so I was worried about being the privileged white girl that goes on a journey. But when we got there, what became very, very clear was that the intention of this mission was to come and see and go and tell, come back with, like, I have an emotional connection now to that place that I didn't have before. I've seen things that are undeniable. You could put me in front of anyone and there isn't a person in the world that would be able to convince me that what is happening there is a democracy, or what is happening there is right. It's not right. Like,
did you go to Hebron?
Yeah. Like, what? You're on a street that you can almost feel the history on the street. You can feel how the shops used to be open and people, you know, we walked down the busiest street in Hebron that now has the fucking doors of the houses welded shut. And the Palestinians have cages on their windows because they're under constant attack. The occupier's flag is everywhere.
It's protecting just a few hundred settlers.
Yeah.
In the middle of thousands of Palestinians.
Exactly. And we went to Issa Amro's home, the activist. And
great man.
Oh my God. And they opened up their home. They fed us. And the soldiers are walking by with guns right next to his house. He doesn't know when he leaves his house, he doesn't know what it's going to be like when he comes back. He's living in a cage. And not only that, we met a farmer who had 100 dunams of land that now is being encroached upon by these settlers. He lives in a cage with his family. If his children make too much noise, the settlers come to the balconies that overlook his home and take their clothes off to intimidate the children to go back inside. They take shots at them. If anyone touches the fence that surrounds their tiny plot of land that they now have, the IDF come. There's a gate that is controlled by someone in Jerusalem that decides whether or not people can come in and out. They had to break the gate to get his mother out to go to hospital. These are not just now, for me, things that I see on Instagram. I mean, it's great that we can see what's actually happening, but sitting with a man while his son pours coffee for us, knowing that every single thing that we say, every moment that we walk around is being filmed, is being recorded. And this man is steadfast, sumud, this Palestinian word sumud, the steadfastness of these people. His father died due to stress, you know, from trying to save his land. And I told you earlier about the documentary that I saw yesterday that's in production now, a 27-year odyssey that this documentary maker has gone on with a farmer. And you watch as slowly the land is taken, as the settlers come, as the IDF comes, as they just take the land, siege them in. The history of it in use. We watched the documentary in the morning, and in the afternoon we got the text message to say that they had just destroyed the land. It's happening right now.
Yeah.
And the fragmentation was something I didn't understand before the McCann workshop and then being there. So they fragmented to the West Bank and to Gaza. No, you can't travel in between the two. How crazy is that? And then they fragment the communities. So they stop the communities from visiting each other. It's all done by permits. But the most depraved thing is how they fragment the families. So they will deliberately arrest children in front of their parents so that the child sees that the parents can't do anything, thus breaking that bond between the child and the parents. They keep the child in prison just for long enough to make the community think that the child might be telling tales. So breaks the fragmenting of everything, and then the occupation of their minds. I cannot... The amount of people we spoke to, the stories I heard, a young woman who goes to prison when she's 15 and then goes to prison again, like how she's treated, how they're all treated in prison, the sexual assault that happens. I have come back. I mean, I came back 3 days ago, so I'm still processing everything. But the idea that we allow, like, first of all, there's no Hamas in the West Bank. So don't talk to me about Hamas. Even if it's that brilliant book by Mohammed Al-Kurd, The Perfect Victims, which I meant to bring along because I wanted to read a little piece just at the end about us having to take on the Palestinian, what they have. Like, it's our responsibility. We're not helping, we're not saving, we're not supporting. We have a responsibility, and not just for them, for us. We are losing our humanity, and our governments are doing nothing. Like, I feel in England at the moment that there isn't even a government. Like, I don't know who's in charge here. And we also went to a refugee camp, the Ada refugee camp, and there's a small shop there, a really beautiful shop, where they make jewelry out of the tear gas canisters. And they showed us the tear gas canisters made in the USA, of course. And they cut them up and they make little Palestinian flags. I mean, even as I tell this story, I'm afraid that they will do something to the shop. Anything that I saw out there now, anything that I can do, I feel...
But it's when you come back to the UK and then you hear banal statements from politicians, two-state solution, you know, the classic move is, I support a two-state solution.
It's ridiculous.
There is no Palestinian state. What you just went to see cannot be a Palestinian state.
No way.
They have, as you say, it's non-contiguous, it's settled on, etc., disconnected. But when you hear all that rhetoric, what does that make you feel?
I mean,
it's gaslighting.
Yeah, I mean, the gaslighting is, it's basically, you know, recent years, the whole narcissist thing, we're all much more aware now of narcissistic relationships and narcissistic abuse and coercive control.
We have a narcissistic president where I live.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally like we're in a narcissistic abusive relationship with a very powerful entity. Yeah. And the gaslighting that you then also, what I'm really grateful for about going there, not that I ever doubted what Palestinian people told me about their experience, but having gone there, I'm not gaslighting myself anymore, because that's a really dangerous thing, you know, that you start to say, well, maybe, but isn't there, like I had a woman say to me recently, I just, you know, I wanted to try and find a flag where it was the Israeli flag and the Palestinian flag together. And I'm thinking, oh, babe. Like, again, I keep thinking of Ta-Nehisi Coates when I went to see him speak and he talked about the levels of deception. And I'm trying so hard also to have compassion for where people are at in their levels. Yeah. You have to, it's taking a lot of work to
It's very hard to break that mindset and say one side is occupied, one side is occupied. This is not both sides. We understand it in Ukraine. We understand it in Ukraine. Nobody says, hey, I've got a Ukrainian flag on my house, but I'll put a Russian flag up as well.
Yeah.
Nobody says that.
Yeah.
Even though we're not anti-Russian, Russian people are not bad people.
But also the sanctions that were immediately in place. And I remember reading an article, because my sisters in Ireland were very involved in getting women and children out of Ukraine and housing them in Irish family homes. Yeah. The homes were opened. We all opened, everywhere. And so I saw that really up close. And there was an article in a newspaper about somebody was saying, you know, use this time and your energy to like make bombs and stuff. Weren't they saying that to Ukrainian? And
there was a whole video done by, I think, CNN, I can't remember which one, where they went and followed a bunch of Ukrainians around where they were making Molotov cocktails. And again, it was like Andor. It's very impressive when the good guys are doing it. But who defines who the good guys and the bad guys are? If Palestinians resist violently, which is their right under international law,
absolutely.
Obviously, the international law does not give you the right to kill innocent civilians. We agree on that. But the act of resistance is
totally
illegitimate when it comes to Palestine.
Totally. And everything about, I mean...
And also, what would you do? I mean, you came back from the West Bank. if we lived there, what would we do? If the average
Mehdi,
Westerner, European American lived that life. I mean, Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister of Israel, once said, if I had been born a Palestinian, I would have joined a terror group. It was a moment of honesty from Barak.
Yeah, I mean, there's a brilliant photograph. I don't know who took it, but there's a photograph of the women in Ireland making the bombs, like putting the petrol in the bottles. And I remember I'd look at it and feel like, yeah. Having been out in Palestine, I can't say that I would. I mean, the man who took us around is a peacekeeper. He is. I don't know.
So we live in the UK right now. You live in the UK. I'm a British citizen coming back to the UK. If you even hinted any of that, you'll be locked up.
I know.
I mean, this is where we live it now.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
even
like,
saying this
stuff is like,
I know, and all the use of the anti-Semitic, and I'm just like.
Have you been called that?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the whole of Ireland has been called that.
Yes,
you know, and
the Israeli government
so,
made that very
clear. And so some of the most helpful sources for me after the Palestinians, of course, have been Jewish people, and I think their own connection to, you know, never again. I've been really inspired by, you know, Norman Finkelstein and Katie Halper and all of these great people on the right side of it. So the idea that it's anti-Semitic that's another form of gaslighting. You know, it's...
I mean, you went to the West Bank and you weren't checking the religion of the occupiers. The issue is they were occupiers.
I don't care. They're occupying and they're...
I don't know the religion of the people who shot the guys at Gorman.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Like, it doesn't matter. They're occupiers shooting innocent, unarmed people.
Yeah, and it just feels like seeing it up close, going through the checkpoints. I was sitting in a taxi and the Palestinians did take the piss out of me a lot because I cried a lot. And they would say, oh, Denise is crying, be careful, the floor is so wet because she's crying again. But privately, they would also say to me that for them to see somebody have a strong reaction to what's happening is quite, I think, can be helpful for them because I would imagine they feel very abandoned.
And also what's happened to them has been normalised, right?
Completely. And it's not
1967.
normal. Yeah, it's not normal that I should sit in front of a man who spent 29 years in prison, went to prison at 15 and then got out recently. It's not normal what happened to him in there. It's not normal what's happening to Hussam Abu Shafir, the doctor. Where is
Gaza.
he?
Yeah,
like that, the image of him walking to the tanks with such, you know, I can't even...
history will look back on that as a Tiananmen Square moment.
That's exactly what I thought.
People today in the West haven't clocked it because the gaslighting is still so strong.
Yeah.
But I think the verdict of history will be very harsh.
Listen, I hope. I mean, Owen Jones talks about the reckoning, and he's so determinedly saying there will be a reckoning. I really hope so. But to
I'm
be honest,
more cynical than Owen, but Owen does say that.
Me too, and especially since I came back, since being there, I'm like, hang on. How is this going to be?
All right, so let's not end on a negative note. What makes you hopeful?
What makes me hopeful? Okay, what makes me hopeful? I listen to Gabor Maté a lot at the moment, and he talks about moral injury, and that actually if your heart is broken right now, because my heart is smashed in a million bits, he says that that's a sign that you are a human. And I'm seeing a lot of people. There are a lot of people. We're going to Wembley tonight where there will be 12,000 people. It's still not enough, but all around the world, I do think we are seeking each other out and finding ways to show that we do care. It's just the people in positions of power, which I now think has all been orchestrated. I mean, I've turned full conspiracy theorist about the whole thing. I think, I feel like the people in power are not doing enough, but we are. Those of us with our hearts broken, we are many, and that's a good thing.
We are many, they are few.
Yeah,
well said.
We have friends everywhere.
Now you just became
not
Dedra.
written about.
We need Dedra to lead. We need a a bit of that on our side. Where can people find Denise Gough next?
I'm going to do a play, and it's not a usual kind of play for me. I'm playing a Quaker, and who's deeply soft and kind. because I need to have a kind, soft woman in this system for a while, because I am constantly angry and I'm constantly heartbroken. And it's with Billy Crudup, who's one of the most lovely, beautiful, and our characters have a deep love, and I just want to be on stage where people are looking at me like I'm nice, as
this
opposed
is in London.
to so we'll open in the West End.
And have you got any movie projects coming up?
I'm doing a film with Greta Gerwig called Narnia. So that's I'm playing someone mean in that, but it's fine. It's to children. It's okay. And I have a film coming out called H is for Hawk with the glorious Claire Foy.
You're baddie in that as well?
I'm actually not, and I'm Australian in that, so I'm very happy because my years of watching Home and Away really...
Oh, Home and Away Neighbours.
Yeah, but we didn't have Neighbours because we only had 2 channels, and Home and Away was banned.
So tonight at Wembley, there's a lot of people I'm hoping to meet, but if I meet Guy Pearce...
my God, please introduce me to Guy Pearce.
Aren't you Mike from Neighbours? And I bet he gets that. Not very much in Hollywood.
Yeah, but he went back to Neighbours.
A very British reference.
Yeah, he went... Yeah, didn't he do that 100... I was going to say 100-year anniversary.
You really are.
I
thought I was Aussie so far, but you really are.
Yeah, but it was banned in my house because I grew up in a very Catholic household, so Knots Landing and Home and Away were banned.
What's Catholicism got to do with Australian soap operas?
They wore short skirts. You know what I mean?
I grew up
That's how you get pregnant.
I grew up
apparently.
in a Muslim household. We just looked away in certain scenes.
Yeah.
We'll have to leave it there on that note about Muslim and Catholic households and our TV habits. Denise Gough, been an absolute pleasure. Go to Zeteo.com, subscribe right now so you can get episodes of We're Not Kidding as soon as they drop. Like, subscribe this show wherever you get your podcasts. For now, from me, I'm Mehdi Hassan.
I'm Denise Gough.
And we were not kidding. Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications. For exclusive content and to support our independent, unfiltered journalism, head over to Zeteo.com. Your support matters.